June is the most decisive month for your lawn, and whether your garden looks thick and green all the way through August or starts turning patchy and stressed by mid-July comes down almost entirely to what you do right now. Your grass is sitting inside a biological window right now where soil temperature, day length, and moisture levels align at the same time, and that window does not stay open for long. By the time July arrives, heat stress kicks in, growth slows down sharply, and the lawn essentially switches into survival mode. That means every correct action you take this month gets multiplied in terms of results, while every mistake also gets multiplied in terms of damage. A well-timed feed, a properly executed watering routine, and one correctly managed mow this month will carry your lawn through the entire summer looking far better than the lawn next door. This video is your complete June lawn plan, covering exactly what to do and why, in the order that actually matters. If you want practical, no filler lawn care content, hit subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. June matters more than any other month. You need to understand what is physically happening inside your lawn right now. Cool season grasses, which include perennial ryegrass, fescue varieties, and bentgrass, perform best when soil temperature sits between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius. Below that range, growth stalls, and the plant shifts into maintenance mode. Above it, the grass starts diverting energy away from leaf and root development and toward heat stress protection. June, across the UK and most of Northern Europe, is the month where soil temperatures consistently sit inside that ideal band, and that makes it fundamentally different from every other month of the growing season. The grass plant right now is not just producing new leaf growth. It is actively building root mass downward, thickening the crown, which is the dense base of the plant just above the soil, and loading that crown with carbohydrate reserves. Those reserves are exactly what the lawn draws on to survive July and August when the heat arrives and photosynthesis becomes less efficient. If you deplete those reserves through bad mowing, over-fertilizing, or aggressive scarifying right now, the grass enters the hottest part of the year with nothing in the bank, and that is when you get the browning and dieback that people blame on the weather. The weather is almost never the root cause. What happened to the lawn in June is. If this is making sense and you want the rest of the breakdown, go ahead and hit subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps the channel and makes sure more gardeners find this content when they need it. Mowing is where the majority of lawn damage happens in June, and it happens gradually enough that most people never connect the cause to the outcome. Your grass is in peak growth phase right now, which means the gap between mows needs to shrink. Mowing twice a week is appropriate for most standard lawns throughout June if you want to maintain a clean, even surface without removing too much leaf material in a single pass. The reason frequency matters so much is tied directly to what is called the 1/3 rule, which states that you should never remove more than 1/3 of the current grass height in a single mowing session. If your lawn has grown to 9 centimeters between mows and you cut it down to 3 centimeters in one pass, you trigger a sudden and severe loss of photosynthetic leaf area. The plant has to pull directly from its crown reserves to recover, which is the exact opposite of what you want it to be doing heading into summer. The correct cutting height for a standard garden lawn in June sits between 3.5 and 5 centimeters. Fine or ornamental lawns can be maintained slightly lower, but for the typical family garden, staying on the higher end of that range is consistently the better result. Higher grass shades the soil beneath it, which dramatically slows moisture evaporation between rainfall events. Higher grass also blocks the light that weed seeds sitting on the soil surface need to germinate, giving you passive weed suppression without any chemical input. And higher grass gives you more leaf blade area per plant, which means more energy production going directly into root and crown development. On top of all of that, there is one habit that costs nothing and consistently returns meaningful results. Leave your grass clippings on the lawn after each mow. A modern rotary mower chops clippings finely enough that they fall between the grass blades and break down within a few days. As they decompose, they return nitrogen and organic matter directly to the soil surface. Turfgrass research carried out across multiple university studies demonstrated that returning clippings over a full growing season is equivalent to one complete additional fertilizer application in terms of nitrogen input. The only situation where you should collect clippings is if the grass has grown excessively long between mows, because very long clippings can clump on the surface and smother the turf below them. The approach to fertilizing in June is fundamentally different from spring feeding, and getting that distinction right prevents a frustrating amount of avoidable damage. In March and April, A high nitrogen spring fertilizer is the right product because the lawn needs an aggressive push to break dormancy and drive rapid green growth. In June, that same aggressive product works against you. The lawn does not need a growth surge right now. What it needs is a steady, balanced feed that supports ongoing development without pushing the grass into rapid soft growth right before summer heat arrives. Summer lawn feeds are typically formulated with a lower nitrogen ratio and a higher potassium content compared to spring products. Potassium directly strengthens the cell walls of individual grass plants, and stronger cell walls translate into measurably better drought and heat tolerance. A slow-release granular product designed specifically for summer use will also spread its nitrogen input over 4 to 8 weeks rather than delivering it all at once, which avoids the boom and bust growth pattern that makes grass more vulnerable to disease and stress. The most important practical rule for June fertilizing is that you must never apply granular feed to dry grass under hot, sunny conditions. If the granules sit on leaf blades without being watered in within 24 to 48 hours, the concentrated minerals cause fertilizer scorch, which shows up as yellow or brown streaks running across the lawn in the pattern of however the spreader moved. Apply fertilizer when rain is forecast within the following 24 to 48 hours, or plan to water the product in yourself immediately after spreading. One application in early June is sufficient for most lawns. You do not need to be feeding every 2 weeks. Over-fertilizing in summer produces excessive soft growth that is actually more vulnerable to heat stress, drought, and fungal disease than a moderately fed lawn. The most widespread watering mistake in June is applying a small amount of water every day or every other day, and it is a mistake that people make with genuinely good intentions. When you water lightly and frequently, you are wetting only the top 3 to 5 centimeters of the soil profile. The grass roots, which in a well-established lawn can extend 15 to 20 centimeters downward, never have access to that moisture because surface water evaporates or drains away long before it reaches the root zone. The grass plant adapts to this pattern over time by keeping its root system shallow, positioned right where the water is reliably available, and that makes the lawn dramatically more exposed when a dry spell begins. A shallow-rooted lawn with no access to deeper soil moistures will start showing visible stress within 3 or 4 days of dry weather. A deep-rooted lawn can draw moisture from much further down the profile and can handle 10 to 14 consecutive dry days before showing any meaningful sign of stress. The way you build deeper roots is by watering deeply and infrequently. Once per week is the right target for most established lawns in June during dry periods. Each watering session should deliver enough water to penetrate 15 to 20 centimeters into the soil. For most standard garden soils, that means running a sprinkler for 45 minutes to an hour, or applying approximately 20 to 25 millimeters of water in a single session. The ideal time to water is early morning, between 5 and 9 in the morning, before soil and air temperature rise significantly. Morning watering gives the grass blades time to dry out during the day, which directly reduces the risk of fungal diseases establishing overnight. Evening watering leaves the lawn wet for 8 to 10 hours in darkness, which is the ideal incubation condition for several common fungal pathogens. And if rainfall has been consistent and the soil already has good moisture depth, skip supplemental watering entirely. Established lawns in June do not need additional water unless there is a genuine sustained dry period, and unnecessary watering in cooler wet periods can soften the soil to the point where foot traffic causes compaction damage that takes weeks to recover from. June is your last clear window for effective weed control before the majority of broadleaf weeds in your lawn attempt to set seed, and the timing gap between acting now and acting in 3 weeks is the difference between a manageable problem and one that follows you for the next 2 or 3 years. Mature dandelion plant that you remove in early June is gone permanently. A dandelion plant that you ignore until late June has already produced a seed head and released anywhere from 50 to 200 seeds across your lawn and your neighbors. Each one of those seeds is capable of producing a new plant that will be visible by next spring. That is the compounding nature of weed problems in lawns, and June is where you either get ahead of it or fall behind it. For broadleaf weeds, including dandelions, plantain, daisies, and speedwell, you have 2 main approaches. Manual removal works well when the soil is moist, because the roots come out cleanly rather than snapping off below the surface. Water the area the evening before you plan to weed, then use a long-handled weeding tool to extract the full taproot from each plant. If the taproot breaks and the lower section remains in the soil, the plant will regenerate from it, so the completeness of the extraction matters. The second approach is a selective broadleaf herbicide, applied as a spot treatment directly to the leaves of each weed. Most selective lawn herbicides are formulated to kill broadleaf plants without affecting grass, but they need to be applied when weeds are actively growing and when the temperature is below 25 degrees Celsius, because above that threshold, many herbicide formulations become less effective or evaporate before they are absorbed. Apply in the morning under cooler conditions and allow at least 24 hours without rain after treatment for the product to be absorbed through the leaf. After removing or treating weeds, rake each bare patch lightly to loosen the surface soil and scatter a small amount of grass seed into the opening. June soil temperatures support rapid germination, and filling those gaps quickly prevents the next round of weed seeds from colonizing the exact spot you just cleared. June is one of only 2 good windows each year for repairing bare or thinning sections of lawn, with the other being September. The conditions right now are close to ideal for grass seed establishment. The soil is warm enough to drive quick germination. There is usually enough ambient moisture to support seedlings through their most vulnerable first week, and the long days give new grass maximum photosynthesis time during the critical establishment period. Begin by walking the entire lawn and identifying every area that looks bare, patchy, or noticeably thinner than the surrounding turf. Thin areas matter just as much as completely bare ones, because thinning grass is far easier for weed seeds to colonize than dense, established turf. For each repair area, start by raking out any dead grass, moss, or surface debris. Then loosen the top 2 to 3 centimeters of soil with a hand fork or stiff-tined rake. If the patch is in a high-traffic zone, the soil is likely compacted below the surface, and you need to break that compaction up more aggressively, sometimes adding a thin layer of topsoil or a 50-50 mix of topsoil and sharp sand to improve drainage and create a better seedbed. Scatter seed at the rate recommended on the packaging, which is typically around 35 grams per square meter for overseeding an existing lawn. Press the seed lightly into the soil surface with the back of a rake or by walking across the patch gently. The seed needs direct contact with the soil surface to germinate, but it must not be buried more than a few millimeters deep, because deep burial prevents emergence. Keep the repaired patches consistently moist for the first 14 days, as drying out during germination kills seedlings before they have produced their first true root. Once new grass has reached approximately 6 centimeters in height, it is ready to be included in your normal mowing routine alongside the rest of the lawn. June marks the start of the active season for several lawn pests and diseases that are far easier to manage when caught early than when they have been established for several weeks. Red thread is the fungal disease most commonly appearing on UK lawns in June. It shows up as irregular patches of grass with pink to reddish thread-like fungal structures weaving through the leaf blades, creating discolored sections that look pink or straw-colored from a distance. Red thread develops most readily in conditions of nitrogen deficiency combined with prolonged leaf wetness, which is a combination that occurs naturally after mild wet spells in early summer. The most effective first response to red thread on a domestic lawn is a light application of a nitrogen-containing fertilizer, since the fungus exploits nutritionally weak grass. Fungicide is rarely necessary for domestic lawn red thread, but reducing leaf wetness by watering only in the morning and improving air circulation through dethatching will help the disease clear up over the following 2 to 4 weeks. Leather jackets, which are the larvae of the crane fly, feed on grass roots from below the soil surface and cause irregular yellowing patches that closely resemble drought stress but do not respond to watering. If you pull back a section of turf in an affected area and find gray-brown legless larvae in the top 5 centimeters of soil, you have a leather jacket infestation. Nematode treatments containing Nirnamafeltia are effective, safe for children and pets, and appropriate for June application as long as the soil is moist and above 10 degrees Celsius. Chafer grubs are another root-feeding pest to be aware of. Adult chafer beetles are active and laying eggs in June, so treating the soil with chafer-specific nematodes in the final week of June can significantly reduce the larval population that would otherwise begin damaging the lawn in August. Everything you do in June is ultimately preparation for the 2 most stressful months of the year for cool season grass, and using the final week of June to assess and address remaining issues gives you a measurable advantage over the second half of the summer. Walk the full lawn in the last week of the month and look for anything that still needs attention before the heat arrives. Areas that stay wet for longer than the surrounding lawn after rainfall are typically showing signs of soil compaction and pushing a garden fork 10 to 15 centimeters into the soil across those zones before July will improve drainage and aeration without the disruption of full mechanical aeration. Spots where the grass is consistently thinner than the rest of the lawn, despite being fed and watered adequately, are worth examining for shade, because surrounding trees, shrubs, and fences cast significantly more shadow as the growing season reaches its peak. Neighboring plants reach full leaf. If shade is the cause, a shade-tolerant grass mix applied during your September renovation will produce better long-term results than continuing to push growth-hungry varieties in low-light conditions. Pay attention to the edges of the lawn running alongside paths, driveways, and walls. These zones lose moisture faster than the main lawn body because the adjacent hard surfaces absorb heat and radiate it back into the adjacent soil. A light dressing of fine compost or a quality pre-mixed lawn top dressing applied along those edges before the peak of summer helps retain moisture and cushions the grass against the additional thermal stress. By the end of June, a well-managed lawn should have been mowed on a consistent schedule at the correct height, fed once with an appropriate summer product, watered deeply on a weekly schedule when rainfall was insufficient, cleared of broadleaf weeds before they set seed, and repaired in any bare or thin areas with fresh seed. If you have worked through each of those, you are in a genuinely strong position heading into July. That is your complete June lawn care plan. Mow at the right height on the right schedule. Feed once with a product designed for summer conditions rather than spring growth. Water deeply and infrequently to drive root development downward. Remove weeds before they seed and multiply. Repair bare areas while the soil temperature is in your favor. Watch for the early signs of fungal disease and pest activity so you catch problems when they are still manageable. And use the final week of the month to assess what still needs attention before the heat of July arrives. Every one of those steps builds directly on the one before it, and together they create a lawn that handles summer stress far better than one that was neglected or mismanaged in June. If this video helped you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who has been struggling with their lawn this season. Subscribe if you have not already, because we cover practical, detailed lawn and garden topics. And drop a comment below telling me what your lawn looks like right now and what your biggest challenge is heading into summer. Every comment gets read and helps shape future videos around what you actually need.